what Frenchman's Bend now was a big bend in the bow, and it comprised about 500 acres, and it all drained right down to the middle and out what we call a jack ditch, was a drain ditch out into Bow de Seard. And when it would come a big rain, well, that'd all fill up down there, which was later our crawfish pond, and the water would run out, and when the water would run out in the Bow de Seard, the buffalo would come up the creek and go through this culvert and going out into the field there, and then as the water would recede, they'd go back out with it. Well, when we get a big rain, we'd run up to Washita City and get a big hook net from Sam Fowler and come back, and Robert Earl was here then. In fact, Robert Earl and I were working, he was working with me then. And we put that net over the end of the culvert, so if it came through, we had him. And we caught 9 buffalo weighed 248 pounds one night. That's the best we did. The biggest one we ever got was 54 pounds. That's a big buffalo. But then after the water would slow down, the big loggerhead turtles would start coming through. So you had to time it so that whenever your last of your buffalo came through and the water slowed down, to get your net out, because once you got one of those in there, you couldn't get him out. He'd hold his claws like that, and they had real sharp claws. And the only way you could get them out would be to take the net loose from the end of the culvert, turn the throat down, and put it on the bottom and let them drown, and then you could get him out. So we was always trying to get them out before we got any turn. But we caught lots of those old big ones like that. Big as a wash tub. I cleaned.
That sounds like something that would have happened.
Do you remember when you and Joe went from Alamosa to see, I guess, James Bond?
Oh, Lord,
and y'all
yeah.
had like 3 flats.
Oh, it was awful. That was a typical hell. And it was freezing. And they were sick. We all had babies. And, oh, that was unfortunate.
I just remember y'all had so many flats.
Yeah.
Joe never looked ahead. He didn't worry about what's going to happen. And we fished, didn't catch anything. Cranked the motor up and we couldn't go. Cranked the motor up and it wouldn't go. We couldn't imagine what was wrong. We thought it wasn't engaging. It's one of those electric engaging shifters.
Electric clutch on it, yeah.
And took that all apart and worked on that. Finally, after we worked on everything we could, Joe said, well, we may as well raise the motor up and just float downstream. Raised the motor up and there wasn't any prop on there. Crossed the prop on. Joe had trouble with on that Jeep he had trouble with the starter on all the time. So he got another starter to put on it, and he put it over in the back end, and I bet it stayed there 5 years. Never did get started working all right. He just carried it around as a spare. And we caught a car. It was 8 foot long, dressed 95 pounds, and it dressed within 5 pounds of half the weight. Anytime you dressed, we used to catch them and sell them. We caught we made that day. I forgot how many. We had 300 and some pounds of dressed garb meat, anyway, and we brought them to town and called James Bond's daddy. I don't know how we called him. Came home, I guess. We had motorbikes, and anyway, went back and we carried those to the fish market in town, and we sold 100 pounds for, I don't remember how much. And we went to another fish market and sold another 100 pounds. And then came back to the first place, and we sold 100 pounds to, and sold them the last 100 we had for half of what we sold the first 100 to them, because we couldn't keep them. And we made $43 a piece. I remember that day. That's the most money we'd ever seen. And was a pretty good bit of money back then. I'm talking about in the 40s, early 50s, 40s, 50s, 40s, I guess. And, but that jar was
a month's wage or something.
He was 8.5 feet long. We marked it. We cleaned him on the bottom of a boat. I think I said 8 foot wide, but he was 8.5. We marked it with an axe on notched out the front end and the back end where his tail was, and notched it on the bottom of an old boat that we used as a dressing table, and then measured it later. And he caught a man in the Washita River.
Well, you
Boy,
and
bar
James
meat
Bond,
sell for $4 and something, $4.95 a pound. I could get rich.
Let's go fishing.
I could get rich catching
Now,
gold.
you and James Bond, did y'all live up on the river for
Oh,
a
yeah.
while?
Every summer, all summer
Yeah,
long.
they built a little log cabin up
Yeah.
there.
We come in on Saturday night and go back on Sunday evening. When I was 13 or 14, when I was 14, we built the log cabin up on the river.
Isn't that wonderful?
And so this junior, our sophomore, junior, and senior years, and first year at college, we spent the summers up there. And of course, during the war, you couldn't get gas, and Daddy was always able to get gas for the outboard motors, so we was able to. He kept us in gas, and we used the old company boats, which they had river boats back then, which was fine because we was on the river, and they were big boats, bigger than you, and that's what we used for our fishing boat, and we'd stay up there all week long. Come in on Saturday night and go back on Sunday. Ran into a cousin of mine over there at Bossier City, and we were going to Shreveport. So he told us how to find the bus. And Grady Allen Bounds, which was a cousin of mine that was going to Tech, Uncle Albert's son, hitchhiked over there with me. I had my money, and that's where I got my money. Is another story. But I had my money. And I took it with me. I took $300 with me to buy it. That's what I was going to do, buy it. Well, anyway, I got over there, and he wasn't at home. Finally got to where the man lived, and he wasn't at home. And his wife said, take the car and ride it around and see. I'll call my husband, see if he'll take $200 for it. I told him I'd give him $200. So I came back, and I told her, I said, no, I can't pay $300, lady, $200. She said, well, he said he'd take $200. So we loaded up in the car and came back to Tech with extra money. But I had gotten the money when we went down to Winfield to a forestry. They have a big forestry day, is not what they call it, but that's what it amounted to. Kind of like these play day deals they have, I don't know. But they had top hats out of felt and little derby hats out of felt. I thought, yeah, that'll be a good thing to sell at the ball game between Tech and Northwestern. So I came home, back to Tech, and had a label in it where it was. I in Greenboro, Green something, Texas, I remember that. I didn't have any money, but you could buy 7/16 flat finishing washers. You could buy a whole bunch of those for 50 cents. And they work just like quarters in a telephone. And I took went not in the telephone across the hall from where we lived. On the second floor we had a phone, and on the first floor had a phone. But I went down to the first floor so they couldn't trace where those flat finishing washers were coming from. And I called this man out in Texas, and I told him I'd like to try to sell them, but I didn't have any money. He said, well, I'll ship them to you if you'll pay me whenever you get through, and I'll take back what you don't sell. I said, okay. So I got 100 top hats and 200 derbies. And I forgot what I sent back. Well, I didn't send any derbies back, but I sent, and I paid 50 cents a piece for them, and I sold the top hats for 50 cents for the derbies and $1 for the top hats is what I had to pay for them. But I sold the derbies for $1 and the top hats for $2. And so for the Tech Northwestern ball game, and I went over to the printing deal there at Tech where they would print up things. Anyway, I got them to print some bands to go on top of the hats. Tech beat Northwestern. And so I sold them, and when I got through, I shipped back what I had left to the man and sent him his money. And that's where I had the money to buy the convertible with. The original paint job and green corduroy upholstery still on.
Corduroy upholstery.
Yeah, it didn't have a dent in it. But anyway, ride down the road and had a wheel in both, a wire wheel in both fenders, had wire wheels on it,
Looked like an MG.
and it looked like a big MG is what it looked like.
Okay.
Painted yellow, and it was a convertible. Run like it had a Dodge truck motor in it. And it would run, man, it would run like you wouldn't believe. And but it was a fine automobile. Had 4 blades on the radiator fan. I was riding down the road one day between here and Texas Gas, and all of a sudden, wham! And I thought, what in the world? And the motor just started doing this, you know. I stopped and I raised the hood on the driver's side, and I couldn't see anything. Checked the oil, raised it, went around on the other side, and when I raised the hood, there was that blade sticking out of the hood about like that. So I turned around, went back to Texas Gas, and borrowed their acetylene torch, cut the other blade off on the other side, so that it wouldn't be out of balance. Went on my way. When I sold it, it had just 2 blades on it instead of 4. Oh no, Joe got and Mama got in an argument or something though. I don't know what about. But Joe left the house on the motorcycle. He was gonna leave home, and he got up here halfway between here and the store, about where the ditch crosses there, and a cow walked out in front.
Oh.
He threw on his brakes, and when he did, he slid sideways. I wasn't with him really. He told that he slid sideways, and the cow belly pinned his leg between the cow and the gas tank, and it broke his leg. And so he didn't get to ride the motorcycle, so while he was off, couldn't ride the motorcycle, I'd missed the school bus on purpose and asked Mama if I could ride the motorcycle to school in Monroe. And I'd stop and pick up James Vaughn, who lived in this house, and we'd go to school on the motorcycle. And it wouldn't do but 85, but we'd do 85 all the way from here to Monroe.
Washington Parish High School.
That was James Vaughn. We were hunting over at his uncle's place, and ran up on a dead hog. So we skinned out a leg, built a fire, and cooked it. I guess that's what you're talking about. I don't know if the hog died of cholera or what, or somebody shot him. We didn't shoot him. I know that, but he was fresh dead. And anyway, Joe left, went to the Navy. I had to milk the cow. 3 of them.
Gosh.
One of them died. I don't know what for them. The train killed one, and I don't know what happened to the other one.
One of them swelled up.
Yeah, that may have been the one that swelled up. But we got out of the cow business. I sure was glad. It was a chore milking 3 cows before school.
That wasn't your daddy's doing, was it?
Huh?
I bet that wasn't your daddy's
No,
doing.
no, he wouldn't have nothing. He couldn't have milked a cow if it depended on it. And that's all Mama's doing.
She wanted that in the garden.
Yeah, Lord. Wasn't satisfied to have a big old garden over at the cow pen. Had a garden there beside the house. And
She had that after we married her in that garden. Everybody had that.
I remember one time I was having to work the garden. I hated it. I was having to work the garden, and Joe was going to get to go fishing with Daddy. And I remember that.
Where Lindy got married.
Yeah. Anyway, and there was American Legion Hall there. Well, anyway, right there, where there's a dam now, there was a bridge across there, and they had just dug out all the bar pit on that side and made the dam, and I don't know where they took the bridge down. But we were there one day, had a single-shot rifle, one that you pull the knob back on the top of it, and you cocked it, and we were throwing bottles or cans down in the water there and shooting at them. What we were doing over there that far from home, I don't know. We didn't know Daddy's company car of some sort. I imagine it was a coupe, most of them were. Anyway, after we got through shooting at the bottles, Daddy walked around the car to get in the driver's side. Joe shoved the rifle in on the passenger side, and I was standing like right yonder. And either the bottle sank or something that was left uncocked, something triggered it off. But those, if you remember, those, they pull that cocking pin back, it would hold all right, but if it was released, it would, and you hit it like that, it would fire. It'd make it fire. You could hit it and make it fire from behind. I don't know if he left it cocked and something triggered it off, or if he hit something when he's shoving it in, and the bullet, 22 bullet, went right between the two bones, this joint and this joint, and cut that leader in two right there
That's
On
Joe.
your hand?
on Joe.
Oh, okay.
And then it hit me in the shoulder. I was standing there
But you know,
looking
poor
at a
man.
big old rose bush there. These are like grow out in the pastures, and they had little flowers and bumblebees all over it. And I thought a bumblebee had me. Man, it was thing. Let me tell you, you get shot with a bullet, it's hot. And so I took off running down the hill. Of course, Daddy had heard the commotion, I guess, all the time. He was lighting his pipe. He was smoking a pipe. He was lighting his pipe, but he doesn't know what happened to the pipe. We never did find it. But he ran back around the car, and I was crawling under a fence going down there to get in the water to get that bumblebee off my arm. That's where I was headed. He caught me going under the fence. Joe had seen that he shot himself and passed out, and he was laying there on the ground. And so Daddy drug me back under the fence and got me up there. When Joe came to, he said, I think I'm right in saying this, he saw he'd shot me, passed out again, and Daddy had to get us all in the car, carry us over to old Dr. Spencer.